Đúng rồi, con. Yo no oigo.
He's gonna find out and not back in.
That one sounded. We could try.
Yeah.
We can try. Well, the mic is responding now. Can we try again? Again? Okay. Okay. So she can hear me, but they can hear from here, but not from
The mics. They can hear from his computer, but they can't hear from the mics. Yes. President
Yeah.
Rivera just,
you lost the mic, you lost the house.
they can't hear.
They can't hear from the mic's not going onto the computer.
Oh.
Yeah,
Dr.
no, every
Dr. Joyner, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
okay, that's gonna have to go there.
Can you hear me?
I can only hear you and Paul.
Okay. Dr. Benitez, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna walk over there. One second. Just gonna use this as a mic.
Laptop now?
Yeah.
Just like the old days?
Just like the old days.
Wow.
Thank you.
Now, do I have the timer back on? Oh, I 5 minutes.
But for now.
Doesn't technology make our life so much easier?
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on 1 second. Switch mics and all set. Okay. You're all set.
Go.
Okay, go.
I'm just going to start at the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Clarino goes between both buildings because we are one school, two buildings. She has a fifth and sixth grade advisory group who counts on her greatly, and she oversees and evaluates several Whitney Avenue teachers. It would be distressful for those teachers to have to meet and adjust to a brand new administrator at the mid-year point who does not know our school, its workings, and certainly will not know any of us, our goals, our teaching styles, or the students. Isn't Mrs. Clarino utilizing the skills that she was taught under Dr. Negron's guidance earlier on in her career? I'm very confused by how this move would be at all productive or constructive to any of the schools impacted by moving Mrs. Clarino at the mid-year point. Please help our school community make sense of this. We're appealing to you to consider moving Mrs. Clarino, not moving her at an atypical, unprecedented time of year. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Followed by Tom DeLuca and Beverly Green.
Good. Hey all, my name is Jake Halpern. I'm president of the Wilbur-Cross PTSO. If you drove past the track on Sunday, you saw us picking up stuff. Mr. Mayor, the track is clean for at least the next few days. I'm here though today to talk about the cell phone ban. And, it goes into effect for high schools next September. In short, I unequivocally think it's a good idea. I want to address this in two ways. First, as a parent, which is that the other night we're sitting home at dinner and I got a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. My wife asked me how my day was. I start talking. The one kid is on the fantasy football. My other kid is trying to pay attention, but his phone is blowing up with Snapchat like every 2 seconds. You all have been there, I'm sure. And my wife, who doesn't mess around, finally just said, "Give me the phones." She took the boys' phones. So there was protest, as there should be, from a kid's perspective. And I told them, you all better get used to it because starting in September, they're not going to be in the schools. So I think it's a good idea because like so many of you on those report card comments when we get back, student shows promise, but he's on the phone. And I don't know how you can be teaching trigonometry to 30 kids and have 2/3 of them on the phone. It doesn't work. And I applaud Dr. Negron for having the courage to step up and say what we all know. This has got to change. However, as president of the PTSO at Wilbur Cross, I got to tell you, we need to make sure we set this policy up to succeed. You got 1,700 kids coming to school in the fall who are used to bringing their phones and they can't have them. It's going to be a challenge. And I talked to the school administration, 2 things I think we need to keep an eye on. One is kids that rely on their phones as computers. My kids can afford a laptop. A lot of kids can't, and they need that phone to take their notes and do whatnot. We need to make sure that those kids who we're taking the phone from have got a laptop in there so they're not deprived of their educational opportunity. 2 is, you all know our kids use the phone as a coping mechanism. They're bored, they're angry, they're upset, whatever the case may be, they turn to that phone as part of their self-regulation process. We may think it's a good idea or a bad idea. Folks, it's a reality. So if you're going to create a situation where they can't go to that phone, we better be darn sure that we have enough counselors in the school that we are supported. So in the absence of that phone, there are other things that those kids can rely on so that they succeed. So in short, it's a great idea. I'm 100% behind it, Dr. Negron. It's a good call. But let's make sure that we have everything lined up. So when those 1,800, and Lord knows it'll probably be 1,900 the way things are going next fall, when those kids show up, that it's a success that it should be. Thank you all.
Yes, it is.
Hi, I'm Beverly Green. I have a student or a son at Worthington Hooker, and I'm also this year's secretary of the PTA. I'm just going to echo everything that Peter said, everything that our staff members said for Worthington Hooker. Moving Ms. Carino in the middle of the school year will destabilize the school community. I have one kid, he started K in Hooker. I was welcomed. My child was welcome. He's safe there. My own selfish reasons, I know for sure that if Miss Clarino is moved, they're good teachers that are going to follow her. And it's not just the children, it's the staff, it's the families that we're all impacting in the middle of the school year. And to be clear, it's really not the middle of the school year. We're saying it's the middle of the school year, but it feels like it's much sooner than that. So I just really beg and ask and just echo all that's already been said and what other families are feeling. Just don't move Miss Clarino in January. I mean, don't move her, period, if we had our way, but don't move her in January. It'll be really terrible for the school community that we all love and cherish and that we heard was a flagship school from the superintendent last week. And this will really do damage to us. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tom DeLucia, President of Local 287 and Building Manager of Central Kitchen. Once again, I stand before the board asking you to consider bringing our custodial management back in-house. I watched the last two F&O meetings where we were told there would be discussions to bring the work back in-house. On the October 7th F&O meeting, when discussing SJ part-time custodial services, all that was presented was a month-to-month plan laid out by Mr. Carter to put out an RFP. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Wilcox requested a cost comparison and discussion of in-house custodians to be added to the agenda for the November F&O. October 21st F&O, there was supposed to be discussion of in-house management for the ABM contract. Again, there wasn't any discussion of bringing a manager back in-house. Just a recommendation by Mr. Carter not to put the bid out due to the extra $5.5 million for facilities and the projects that were going on. He said it would be confusing for a new company to come in during the middle of that. Again, no talk of in-house. There always were and always will be projects going on. There are projects happening when we rid ourselves of the last private management companies. So I am here tonight so our voices are heard by the board. It is imperative to us in Local 287 that we at least get our unionized custodial management positions back in-house where they belong. We are the only union department in the city managed by a private company and do not have the opportunity to be promoted like the Parks Department, Food Service, Security, Public Works. If you choose to keep facilities run by a private company, I urge you to at least put the custodial management side of that contract in-house and the 3 high schools. It is essential for my members from Local 287 to have something to strive for. I am again coming to you today on October 28th so we can get the ball rolling before we're stuck with another year of terrible custodial management. We in Local 287 have the experience, knowledge, and respect of our membership to run our department more efficiently. Let us be accountable for our own. And also, let's get the pairs of contract settled.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the New Haven Public School Board. Of course, my name is Shirley Poindexter. For the past 4 years, I have been a staff representative for ASME Council 4. I also served as union officer representing New Haven Management Employees, ASME Local 3144 for 25 years, 8 years of which I was the union president. I retired after 33 years of service for the city of New Haven. I am here today in solidarity with our brothers and sisters, members of Local 287 and the paras. I'm also here as a bearer of truth. If there's anyone who's seen the harm of privatization, specifically ABM failure to properly deliver services and their mistreatment of employees, it's me. Currently, I represent the Putnam Custodian Union, Local 1303-487. About 3.5 years ago, the town of Putnam privatized school custodial management to ABM. As a result, there was a steady decline in the quality, timeliness, and professionalism of service they were contracted to deliver. ABM management made it harder for our members to do their work. They constantly lacked enough supplies, such as toilet paper, paper towels for schools. They were forced to work with unsafe equipment that needed replacement. They also experienced an extremely high turnover rate, which was nearly fully staffed. This was just the tip of the iceberg. There was more when it comes to ABM pattern of disrespect towards employees, the union, and the collective bargaining agreement. Over the course of a year, I filed 9 National Labor Relations Board complaints against ABM. Some of their worst offenses includes a member waiting almost 200 days for their stolen wages to be returned, refusing to give employees agreed upon wage increases, their failure to make employer and employee contributions to their HSAs, firing 3 employees without just cause, one of which was a union president. Fortunately, those 3 employees were members of the union. We fought to get them reinstated and respect and justice they deserve. One of the 3 employees were reinstated. The other 2 chose to settle their complaints by leaving ABM's employment. Also, through the advocacy of members of the union, the Putnam Board of Ed and superintendent turned the tide. In January, they voted to end their contract with ABM, thus returning the custodians to being public sector workers under the direct employment of the Board of Ed, which took effect July of 2024. This transition also gave Putnam custodians the chance to renegotiate their contract and result and significant improvements such as defined benefit pensions, higher wage increases, job security, and increases in staff. I wish the story of New Haven custodian could be a similar happy ending. How is it fair to phase out union custodial work? A decision made by the New Haven elected leaders now requires the unionized custodians themselves to be here tonight. Like, oh, be here tonight in light to the spirit of the New Haven school. It's important that we bring this work back to New Haven and not privatization. Thank you for your time.
Plateau, followed by Crispin Stewart.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Blateau. I'm a teacher, parent, and current president at New Haven Federation of Teachers. And I didn't prepare remarks tonight. I knew I wanted to address a few things. Sitting here listening to the range of topics from public comment tonight remind me of a professional development session I had back at Metropolitan many years ago with our former principal, Judy Puglisi. And she shared with us a TED Talk by an author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And the TED Talk is called The Danger of a Single Story. And it's a powerful TED Talk that I encourage everyone to check out and listen to. And I'm going to highlight tonight a couple of examples of why we don't want to linger in just a single story. So first of all, with respect to privatization, the single story is that privatization is the answer. Privatization saves money. Privatization is the way to get the most out of it. And that's what people were operating with as their single story 15 years ago when they privatized Local 287 jobs. Dangerous, didn't save us money, didn't yield better outcomes. So it's complicated. There's more than just that single story there. Second, there's a single story that there's a universal experience for folks at Worthington Hooker. And I just want to pause there and remind the board and folks listening that there are a range of stories about people's experiences at Worthington Hooker, people who work there currently and people who no longer work there. So I don't want us to linger in the single story of the Worthington Hooker experience. And the third is there's a single story out there. Check out the New Haven Independent comments that the New Haven public schools are overfunded. That is a dangerous single story narrative that is just, quite frankly, not true. When you look at the educational cost share formula and how it's failed New Haven, since 2019, we should have $87 million more if the state fully funded the educational cost share formula. And while that might impact, it might not impact some parts of town more than others, we know that every child in New Haven public schools deserves a world-class education. And we know that we must come together as a city and make sure that our schools are fully funded. So we are showing up tomorrow at the Board of Alders Finance Committee meeting at 6 o'clock at City Hall to join in community with our alders, our representatives, and let them know that we support the mayor and Dr. Negron's recommendation to change the school budget and increase both the general funds by $3 million and our capital improvements, which we know we need, by $5.5 million. So again, I invite everyone to remember the danger of the single story and join us in the shared work of making sure that our schools are fully funded. Thank you.
Right. Good evening, everyone. I think I'm gonna somewhat piggyback off of the single story that's being referenced, or at least one of the single stories. Excuse me. My name is Crispin Stewart. I'm a proud graduate of New Haven Public Schools, and I actually have 3 children currently at Worthington Hooker, and that's what I'm here to speak about tonight. My first child started at Hooker back in 2021 as we were dealing with COVID. And it was amazing to have that environment for my child to go into. You know, family that I was raised in, we strive for our education. We supported a lot of things to make sure that we would succeed, but being in a great environment always seemed to be at the foundation. I was very happy when my daughter started there and got a feel for that environment. 2 years later, my son Lathan started at Hooker also. Throughout the years that he's been there, he's had his challenges with reading, and I would say specifically with Miss Clarino in place. There were countless Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and Sunday evening emails and correspondence to make sure that everything was being done to help support him. And at this point, he's flourishing, and I expect him to continue to flourish because of that environment. Our youngest child, my wife and I, Miles, he just started kindergarten. Every day for the first week and a half, he cried. And every day for that first week and a half, Miss Clarino was there to greet him, walk him in, even send us messages to let us know that he's okay. I know before I mentioned that I was a proud graduate of New Haven Public School, but specifically, I went to Hill Regional Career Magnet High School. I graduated in 2001 when Dr. Negron was an educator there. I'd never had the opportunity to have a class with Dr. Negron, but a lot of my peers did, and it was always great things and awesome things that was said about her. And for me, having the environment with her, Mr. Williams, and all the other educators and administrative staff that was there was an amazing experience. They were wonderful, and Miss Clarino is our wonderful. I know we're here pushing the thought of we wouldn't want her to leave in January. As Bev was noting earlier, we wouldn't want her to leave at all. The environment means a lot. And yes, it is very true that there's dangers in that one story. But for me, if that one story is focused on the child and being a product of New Haven Public Schools, I feel that that's where the focus should be. And with us providing a healthy environment, removing her at this time would be catastrophic. Thank you.
The first online speaker is Victoria. Please state your full name when you come on.
Miss Alujo Ramazanova, you may speak.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to support Miss Clarina because I'm a mom of two children. My little one, she is in a little school student, first grader, and my family really need to keep Miss Clarina in school till at least till the end of the year, because I personally not available for my family, for my children. I'm studying in a residency as doctor in a different state, and both of my girls was so close to the school, and they denied any opportunity to move to different state because they feel a lot of support from the attending or from the principal and Miss Clarina, especially in a little school. And that was my personal preference to leave my children at school because I'm very busy at work, and I know they're under good supervision. They really have support from there. And I mean, like taking principal from the school will destroy the whole school schedule and also give a lot of anxiety to our children, feeling not stable. Especially, please, I really insist you to leave Miss Clarina at school at least to the end of the year to help all children to be safe, feeling safe. I think it's really important. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just at work. I was a little bit distracted, but please, Miss Clarina, she is very professional, very communicative. Children loves her so much, and our children needs her to be at school. Please hear us. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is. Who's the next? Julianne Hadley.
Next speaker is Matthew Bailey.
Next speaker is Matthew Bailey. You may begin speaking.
Good evening, and let me just start by saying I love the Oscars music that plays. It's a very gracious way to keep us all. My name is Matt Bailey, and I'm here as a parent of both a graduate and a current student at Worthington Hooker. And I'm trying to bring with me my perspective as a parent, as one who's worked in the classroom, as the owner of several businesses here in Connecticut, and as a graduate student studying organizational leadership. I think these experiences inform my perspective about what it takes to build and sustain successful organizations. In my work as a business owner, I understand the importance of stable leadership and the impact it has on the success of any organization. And Worthington Hooker School, I believe, is thriving thanks to that leadership, in no small part due to Mrs. Clarino. And I think that removing her during the school year would create an unnecessary disruption. Stability is key to maintaining progress, and Mrs. Clarino's leadership is essential to the school's positive environment and continued success. We as a district, I think, are sometimes in a disadvantage in trying to recruit and promote and grow leaders in education compared to some of our suburban counterparts. And moving people mid-year, I don't think puts us in a position to be recruiting folks and encouraging them to work here if they think that they have that lack of stability in their own professional development. My graduate studies in organizational leadership have reinforced my belief that effective leadership continuity is crucial, particularly in the educational setting where students depend on consistent support and guidance. I think Worthington Hooker is an example of what works well and what we're capable of in our district. And I think we should be focusing on expanding on that success rather than risking its disruption. I don't understand. I've heard this single story come up. I don't know if that means others are trying to, latch on to problems in the past that I'm not aware of, or what that means. I think our focus today needs simply to be on what is best for kids. And moving someone mid-year in a leadership position to school, I think all of us agree is not best for kids. So I urge you to prioritize the well-being of our students by allowing Mrs. Clarino to continue her work without interruption. at least to the end of the year, if not even longer, as I think you're hearing from many, many parents of our school and our community, because the stability she provides is not only beneficial for Worthington Hooker, but I think it can serve as a model for fostering success across New Haven Public Schools, and hopefully help us recruit more great people to help us build solid schools across our district, which all of our kids in our community deserve. So I thank you for your time and your dedication, and I'm glad to finish.
Victoria, please state your name and come on. Full name.
Can you hear me this time, please?
Yes, we can. You can
Wonderful.
Can you please state your full name?
I sure can. I am Victoria or Vicky Gruba, and I am a parent of a first and fourth grader at Worthington Hooker, as well as this year's PTA Vice President. I'm traveling for work and appreciate the opportunity to join you remotely. I want to thank Dr. Negron for coming to our school last Thursday to share with SPMT directly the changes she plans to make at our school. However, a mid-year disruption is not good for our school community, and and how this serves our children was unanswered. I hope the other school who would be impacted by this change is asking the same questions. Ms. Clarino is part of why Hooker is already excellent. And if the assistant principal we are swapping with is also excellent, why this change? If she isn't, she needs coaching and support and accountability. And if performance is still an issue, she has no place at NHPS. A transfer is not the answer. All of our schools and children deserve strong administrators. We need to keep the strong leader we have in Ms. Clarino in our school and ensure stability and keep our community whole. For context, our K through 2 building is blocks from our 3 through 8 building where our principal is. 2 of our 6 teachers in the building were new this year, plus the fact that these are our youngest, most vulnerable learners. To share from personal experience, as the full picture is made up of single stories, so here's my family's single story. Last year, one of our 2 kindergarten classrooms where my son was didn't have a full-time teacher from mid-October onwards for the rest of the school year, an inexcusable failure by NHPS. Ms. Clarino was a stable support to the teachers and paras covering that classroom for the year, and the safe place for my child, who was in a constant state of fight or flight when the original teacher was in the classroom, and for some time after her necessary removal. No child should start their school experience like that. Ms. Clarino and her office, when he was 5 and in his first 2 months of kindergarten, consistently kicked out of his kindergarten classroom by the later removed teacher. She provided the comfort and psychological safety that my son needed as a new kindergartner. Without my confidence in Ms. Clarino that I have, because I've known her for years since I have an older child at Hooker, I knew that this would get better, and the support she directly provided all hours, weekends, evenings to me and my family and my child, I would have pulled my son out of NHPS. Their experience was so horrific. And now that he's thriving in first grade, daily hugs with Ms. Clarino are still part of his routine. She is still his safe place. Children and parents need continuity and trusting relationships. These take time to build and need to be preserved. I share this story to impress upon Dr. Negron and the board that the leadership and most importantly, relationships Ms. Clarino has in our school are vital to its success, and disruption to school communities where things are working should be avoided at all costs. Please keep Johnny Clarino at Hooker for this school year and for all of them. Thank you.
No. Dr. Joyner, Dr. Benitez, and Dr. Yarborough, can you hear us?
No, well, now I do.
Yes.
Now I'm
I,
sorry. Now
I can
do.
hear you now.
Sorry.
I can hear you. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Thank you. We're on to the personnel report.
Action items and superintendent's personnel report.
Thank you, Mr. Will. Thank you, Ms. Downer. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the action items of the Dr. Negron's. Ms. Downer,
Yeah.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser,
Yes.
Ms. Colon,
Just to ask if anybody would like anything moved individually. A couple items individually. The first one is because I need to recuse myself on the is item 5.01. It includes United Way of Greater New Haven. Job with United Way of Greater New Haven. So Dr. Yarborough.
Yes, and just want to say, Mr. Wilcox, your voice is very low and garbled online, but I did make out, I think, what you said. I would like to move for the board to approve MOU 5.01, which is a memorandum of agreement with Clifford Beers for New Haven Public Schools participation in year number 2 of a 5-year full service community school grant that was awarded to Clifford Beers from the U.S. Department of Education to support after school programs, family and community engagement, and partnerships with other New Haven based organizations at 2 schools in Fairhaven School and Fame Academy.
Second.
thank you, Dr. Yarborough and Dr. Joyner. Any discussion? Vote to approve FNO item 5.01, which is the memorandum. Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yeah.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Ms. Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that item passes.
So where's the microphone for the
It's the laptop. There you go.
All right, the second. See, sometimes like to have things appear separately on agendas. I'm going to 0.01, which is the Head Start budget revision.
Second.
Mr. Wilcox, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve item FNO item 9.01. Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Musser,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. That item passes.
I move that we approve the 6 abstracts, the 10 agreements, the 6 amendments on our agenda and as recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox, Dr. Yarborough. Any discussion? Well, to approve the remaining F and O items, Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. And so we'll move on to students' reports. And I lose the-
Let's do it from your.
So, students report for today, October 28th. It's going the October 18th citywide meeting in which I discussed the yonder pouches. Gave a brief summary of how the yonder pouches work, and then a short being used in other high schools. And then I asked them these 3 questions. Do you think that this would work? Think there'd be better ways to make phones less of a distraction? Even if everybody used yonder pouches, would may assume a lot of the answers were no, would not work. Create a larger distraction in the phones themselves. Jake Halpern previously mentioned this, that like themselves from boredom. So of course there's going to be a lot of emotional attachment to them, or at least like it's their phones are worth fighting for, right? And then multiple schools said that before, without interfering with schoolwork, there needs to be more laptops in classrooms. Students also expressed skepticism if this would actually fix the problem. A lot of them talked about iPads being brought to school instead. In fact, I actually talked to a teacher who said that after the enforcement of yonder pouches. So that could be something to look at. The thing people talked about was the student body size to staff ratio. The pouch's fragility, ability of students finding other ways just to find to open the pouches themselves. Next slide. Yeah, so then I asked them, are there any people discussed like the traditional putting phones in a bin or locked desk, and incentive behind it, or penalizing phone usage with a lot of focused on larger distractions rather than phones. So teacher positions, a large part, I do think phones are a large spent probably at one point I was I don't know per school day, and that's generous, trying to find about this or imagine, and that was just the boys' bathroom. The girls' bathrooms were a lot worse. So things like that can really interfere. It can also just be a distraction if you have a student leaving the classroom for 15 minutes and then coming back in later. Please. Students mentioned that they have responsibilities outside of school. They may they have jobs or they have responsibilities overlooking that they may need to be able to respond immediately if an emergency happens, and in what case notified. When the Yonder pouch has this thing within the pouch itself that turns off the internet, and so they can't actually receive any notifications or hear of it. Students mentioned that. Oh, wait, go back up too. All right, that's good. Right. So another part that people who students actually the phones themselves are actually a really good method. Myself, I have struggled a lot with phone use throughout the years. My mom can tell you. I struggled a lot with in algebra too, especially because I'm not really good at math. But once Miss Sham, was pointing out every time I use my phone, using it completely. And eventually I've cut down my phone usage. Average person, or the fourth of the average Gen Z time, which is around 8 hours per day. And now I won't never I've now in order to make sure that I won't use my phone. And so that in their jobs, when they don't have a Yonder pouch to depend on, how will they make sure that not going to be distracted by their phone? Next slide. Being responsible for phones can improve skills that are necessary to being successful in life. And this is something that a lot of students voiced, is that there needs to how the school for the phones needs to be common knowledge, because you have schools where students need to bring their if they hear that they spent 300 grand on this will seem a lot more like a punishment rather than a way to actually save their education. Like you're trying to make the environment worse for them. And so students need to know exactly why this grant money for their roofs or for their facilities, and why it can be used. So my thoughts was to the freshman class first and allow students to experience the new policy from the start immediately, and causing friction with students who might have experienced school without Yonder pouch. It actually is connected with behavioral studies where rather than sudden mandates, and it draws from principles in behavioral science and maybe Dr. Joyner can back me up on that. I don't know if I'm wrong or right. I think he has some, I'm sure I'm right, but he has some background in that's it.
I do have background.
That's a background. I don't know if y'all hear that.
Thank you, Mr. Musser. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Dr. Joyner?
In the interest of making sure that John Carlos is a phenomenal student when he gets to college, I'd like to ask him a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
One, John, what was your sample size?
My sample size?
Yes.
I had 70 from all the high schools other than Riverside.
And was it a stratified sample?
I'm familiar with the term.
Okay, I'll take you out to lunch. We'll talk about that. How did you select your questions?
I selected them myself.
Okay.
Actually, Monica Abbott before the meeting about them too. So.
Okay. Another question is, how many students bring their own toilet paper?
I had a student at the superintendent's meeting with the Wilbur Cross, and we were trying to the mother of the student said that Her student specifically was bringing toilet. I don't have a direct number, or I don't have a concrete number on how many students to the degree in are in crisis. You know, I don't know, I mentioned this a million times. My American law, the ceiling, like, it fell through and half a year's worth of work was destroyed.
Okay, that wasn't my question, but anyway, would you agree that education is preparation for life? Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case, how will these students manage their phone issues in the workplace? I've known people to be fired for using their cell phones when they should be waiting on customers.
Wait, say that one more time.
I said, if you believe that education is preparation for life, then we should be certainly helping these students understand how to manage a number of issues when they enter the workplace, college, military, or whatever. So if we're preparing students for life, should we not be helping them to develop the discipline to use things in their appropriate pace? And I just want to, I haven't finished. And so if we cannot, or if students will not work to manage their cell phones, how are we helping students when they have a workplace where they certainly can't be on the phone, they certainly can't be doing the kind of things that students often do with their cell phones in school? How is it going to happen in college classrooms? And as a person who recently taught college students, having to tell them, listen, turn your phones off. These are adults. If you do have an emergency, step outside the classroom to deal with it. And of course, if students join the military, that's another issue. So the policy, if you look at what's going on in New York and what's going on in Los Angeles, is not designed to punish students. It's designed to create an optimal learning environment.
Right.
So I quite frankly, because I love you dearly, I can say this. I think that your questions are slanted and biased, and that they don't take into account the larger context of how technology can be either an asset or a liability. And I think that if you look at social media, you will find that there's a great deal of misuse of that technology via cell phones, not only by children, but more importantly by adults who should know better. And so I support what the superintendent is doing. She is phasing it in. It's not sudden. And people have ample time to get ready for it. And I suspect that there will be much better college students, members of the military, or students who work in workplaces, if they learn that there's a time and place for everything, and that when you have the task of learning something, meeting all customers, and so on and so forth, that you have to be focused on that and not some of the other issues. So I'm not convinced, and I have grandchildren and children, and I think it should start at home, quite frankly. We shouldn't have to do all this stuff at school level. But anyway, go ahead. I'm done.
Dr. Joyner, I just want to make sure this doesn't turn into a conversation.
Right.
It's just a question.
Well, typically when we have stuff like this, you comment, you ask questions, and you also opine as well. So anything we do is going to be a conversation.
Right. So wait, can you just repeat the first question? I won't answer the one by one. Sorry.
You know what? I think you answered my questions. You said that you had 70 people. It wasn't a stratified sample. And so that was an answer to, and how you selected your question. You said they were your questions. So and you said you gave one anecdote about one student saying they bring their own toilet paper. So you answered my question. I don't have anything else to say.
If I'm not a study, that wasn't the point. My report was the was to voice the opinion of the citywide student council, which is comprised of 70 students from all Dr. Negron data, in which report for my own opinion, but rather to try to of the students that she or the student councils oversees. Second, last question. I don't know, like, how would a couple contentions I have, but for the second part is the questions being my well, it was my own because I was wondering what they thought specifically. And maybe one of the questions we thought were biased is if they would not work, why not? And because a lot of the opinions were negative. And so I asked why not, why they wouldn't think that. And with your last question for environment, when they don't, when they enter school, right, Dr. Joyner?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer in experience. And if you have experience managing your phone time of overuse, then you will go into the real world with a good understanding of why you shouldn't use your phone when you're at work. An idea where you have your phones taken away simply that you're going into, not really with an explanation. Could you mute Dr. Paul White?
I'm actually not, I didn't hear everything you said.
It's all of them.
Thank you.
And so just to repeat, my student reports are not supposed to superintendent, they're just supposed to synthesize and reflect. I'm not having I don't really, if you want me to do like a full data analysis that I was supposed to talk to. And I don't, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to relay the opinions.
Thank you, Mr. Musser. Dr. Benitez?
Good evening, Mr. Musser. Thank you very much. I get what you're trying to do. I also get what Dr. Joyner is trying to do. But I thank you. I know that we always want to hear from the students, and you do have a mechanism to do so because you have elected kids, children, students who are representative of our high schools. And so I understand that you were only trying to get what opinion students have. We understand too that you are not trying to, how do you say, influence with force, but you want to inform us. And I thank you for that. I know it's not going to be a popular thing. So I thank you for taking the challenge of placing those questions when you were one among many. So thank you for your support. And I'm sure Dr. Negron can support more conversations with students, but you have done a good job with this. Definitely, it's not a study, but we thank you for taking time and the risk of having the conversation. And I know Dr. Joyner just wanted to tell you how much more we can do. And I'm sure we could do more. But right now, thank you. And thank you for taking the risk. I think that's, to me, that's it. That's what took me away with your report, that you took a risk.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also wanted to commend Monica Abbott and I had an opportunity to meet with the City Council 2 weeks ago.
October 18th.
Yeah, October 18th, where he collected this information. It was an opportunity for around the plans related to the cell phone free you are attempting, right, to lift their voices. I specific here is the fact that we are dealing with this addiction that to technology and screen time, and that part of this support in interrupting that addiction that we see in learning from them, specifically of things of why they believe it will problem solve around the issues that they see, not that I see as an adult, but I actually love the fact that in your proposal, you also letting the starting with the ninth graders. I feel that because don't forget, we have been implementing at all of our middle schools, which means the ninth grade experience what it's like to not have to be glued to our cell phones of the day. So more to come. I know that I've asked Monica, who's here tonight. We can put and I talked to you also today when I was walking in. Continue the dialogue. Again, I said from day one, I want to learn what the and have a very intentional rollout to this implement the addition that we see in our youth as it relates to screen time, as it
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Negron. Does that conclude? Ms. Colon? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Students report, Dr. Negron.
Thank you for the opportunity today. Take this approach since last year. I take the opportunity to continue to share with the public how it is that we are approaching. I have asked or student services in special education, Tiffany Jackson, learners program, Dr. Evelyn Robles Rivas, in taking this opportunity to share with you and share with the community at large district in alignment with our mission and vision. We approach the work of promoting equity and inclusive for all of our students, but I want us to have an opportunity today to dive in that we do promote these inclusive environments to our students, all learners across the entire district. And with that, I am going to turn it over.
Thank you for that. Before we get started, there's a couple of other members of our team who learners. We have Brittany Dukran, who is a special education teacher. As we get started, one of the biggest things that make sure as a group for both multilingual learners and students with disabilities that we're creating for our students. And we know that if we create equitable, inclusive environments, it provides access for all of our students. And as we're working, again, to New Haven Public Schools strategic operating path plan path to excellence, where partnerships, culture and climate, and really what are the things that really is really looking at that retention and recruitment specifically as it relates to our staff who support. For the purposes of this conversation, we're going to be rooting our and parse out what you see in our strategic operating plan, really looking at an ELA, math, and for multilingual learners, really looking at our language assessments, our information, and our work. Sorry.
Gonna move. You're not gonna see me. Good evening, everyone. I'm director of our multilingual learners program. I really wanted to a little bit of an overview of our numbers, right? Looking at our multilingual learners at glance, we see that we have a total 4,557 multilingual learners in our have had a great increase in our population for the past 5 years. In 2019, we had a total of 3,005. From the total that we have now, and but just wanted to let you know that as our general population had our multilingual learners enrollment had increased, and looking at the numbers, we have all 56 students that are dually identified, meaning that are giving specialized instruction. Very important. We have a total of spoken in our district, and looking at our continuum of service, 4 different programs for multilingual learners. We have our one-way and also our two-way dual language model, which focus on 20% for kindergarten, giving native language support, and English language support. Also, we have our ESOL service, which is actually a pull out and a push in model in every. We have our newcomer center sited at Clinton Avenue, and we help the country instruction for high school level and dual language enrollment. So, looking at the learning profile of my multilingual learners. So as you know, we have first English language proficiency within our program. Speakers, we have newcomers coming to within 10 months here. We have students that have and coming to our district with a traumatic experiences as well. Understanding the educational process, and they're going through challenges. Again, as I mentioned before, we have different levels of English proficiency. have very difficult difficulties transitioning in the new cultural environment. And just to of a background of the population that we receive, we wanted looking at what you know, a multi, right, people that students that are coming from different with different experience coming to us from different places of the world. So the first one I'd like to share with you, let me read it from here better. The story of Mariela. And is hello, my name is 8 years old in second grade. I came from Ecuador, speak English. I know how to read in Spanish a little, but I am scared. I don't have any of my grandparents, aunts, and uncles here with a family friend from my mom, and with my mom and my brother have our own living place. So this is our first scenario, right? I'm going to share with you our second. And reflect on those scenarios, because this is going to lead me to explain for this particular population. Hello, my name is Pablo, and I came from Puerto Rico last year. I had excellent grades in math. I am having a difficult time with my classes, and I read because I want to go to college and study engineering. Every night, and I miss my community. So our next scenario, a student named Patina. I am from Afghanistan, and I came to USA 3 months of a formal schooling for the past 3 years in my country. I am here in the USA, although I am very nervous because my family and the educational system here, and we don't know how to read. No. So as we different scenarios, right? Going back to we can actually see that as is when we do the assessment, Mariela will have to participate in either a one-way bilingual model, language model. However, when we do the assessment, this is a parental that's why it's so important that our office meet with the family, offer, and then they make the decision. So for Mariela, we emphasize native language instruction with also support for her to gradually develop the English language skills but it's important that we focus on native literacy skills first before. However, as in her case, in Mariela's case, we can offer for bilingual, we can offer two-way bilingual, and we can offer the mom or the dad to say, I want my child in a mainstream classroom. So 3 choices that we can offer to Mariela. In the case of a 10th grade student, and as a 3rd grade really wants to excel, like he's really good at, he's really, he comes with great records what can we offer to Pablo? So Pablo, at less than 30 months for graduation. So we cannot offer bilingual instruction. Intensive English language support with ESOL courses. So we want to make sure that when Pablo comes with the family, he could have access, he can have access to advanced as well as other students, but with the shelter instruction approach. And Fatina, right? Fatina is a, right? And as in her case, we assess her, we speak to the family, and we can have to participate in the newcomer program, which gives her and as well as give her the opportunity embrace in the school cultural environment, so she can accustom to what is happening in the school at the same opportunity to get resources from the community. That's one thing. In the case of Mariela, I mentioned something in during that she was sharing an apartment with the family because it is so important that we also work with the family and youth and engagement, and also open choice and enrollment to provide consider homeless, right? Here we go.
Yep, I'm here. So thank you. Take a look specifically as it relates to students with disabilities, similar to learners. There's definitely been an increase in the number of students who've been identified as support. Again, we oftentimes hear that, tell you that even with the students with special needs, even with the students with special needs has definitely increased. So as Dr. Robles has mentioned, we have 500 duly identified having multilingual learner needs and disabilities. We all students are most complex students who you oftentimes hear in finance about what we call again, very complex needs who are placed in other schools outside of New Haven Public interest. Again, in district, one of the things that we have done to even continue to mitigate and making sure, because we believe that many of our students, even the ones who require 40 specialized classrooms that we have in district, we just created 3 more this year and still see the increase since 2020. We continue to build the specialized who again may not be ambulatory, may have little to no language, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes we don't publicize as much as when our programs are full, but we have many, many specialized programs that we have in of service ranges from what we consider to be co-teaching, where you would have a general education teacher within a context of a classroom, ranging all the way through students who setting. So there's a huge range of services that we're thinking about. The learning profile for students with disabilities. Again, we have students who may have memory. We have students who have auditory and visual cognitive delays, as I mentioned before, some auditory, some orthopedic difficulties, some complex social, emotional, behavioral challenges. So similar to what Dr. Robles has done in outlining a picture, I'm going to talk about 2 students. And the students have seen, and if you just indulge me for a moment, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Ethan, and then talk to you a little bit about our work. So hello, my name 8th grade, I struggle sometimes with reading. I'm in a class with 21 other students. The teacher comes into my classroom to help support my work and other students. Other times I go with 6 students to work with a teacher on my reading skills. As my reading skills have improved, I'm comfortable in my classroom. Okay. The second student that I'm going to be talking, this is from his mother, Jessica's perspective. So, hello, my name is Jessica. My 7 years old and does not speak. He used to use simple signs, but now in he used to get really upset when his schedule was changed, but they have been used, and that seems to be helpful. He really enjoys his gym class because it's adapted to meet. Now, as we continue to talk about Christina and then Ethan. So if you remember when I was talking about Christina, we talked about the fact 1 students. So when we're talking about students with special needs who are included, we're talking about this, and they're in our larger classrooms. When I talked a little bit about co-teaching, that meant our para-educator who would be coming into the classroom to support that. Talking about when we talk about the inclusion model, which is one of 3 models that we have for students with disabilities. The second, again, still applies to Christina. If you remember, she talked about being in a small group of 6 students. So when we're talking about being, is again, where you have a special education teacher and or a paraeducator who's working to skills. In this case of Christina, was reading, but continues to work on those skills, provide access and opportunity to the inclusive mainstream law. Lastly, we have our specialized classrooms. Again, if you remember Ethan, so in that classroom, you will see that for Ethan, he's in a class maybe using technology. We talked about the visual schedules. He may be working with occupational therapist, he or she, but in this case it's he because it's Ethan. He's working with a therapist. He may be working with a physical therapist, physical limitations, and really working on those physical needs. So when we're talking, we have classrooms that have a host of different professionals all supporting some other challenges outside of those that we a more inclusive practices. In addition to these 3, we do have for students 18 to 22. So here you go, Britt. Sorry.
Good evening. As Tiffany mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about our OCC, which is our OCC is a program that we have for our 18 to 22-year-olds. It's all about transition. So 84 students in New Haven Public Schools right now that are in our OCC. Students, it's a lot of the same students that met the criteria for our special. If you think about Ethan, think about him fast forward a few years, and that this might be. And so what it is that they spend there's 5 classrooms across the district in which they working on those discrete skills, explicit instruction, instructional practices. However, do community sites for job placement work. And so they're learning vocational skills. These are over 20 job sites that we're really proud of in our areas. Yale New Haven Hospital, ShopRite, Central Kitchen, Gateway. So now's another reason to love Crumble. They really have been accepting of our students, and after 22, we have kids actually getting gainful employment that may not have. And so we're really proud of the work around OCC, and it continues to grow. That's another number that kind of keeps. Do have their high school diploma prior to this, so this is really them gaining more skills to enter the job. And we're thinking about these essential teaching components when we're looking at our there's a lot of overlapping things that are great. It's not just essential skills for all students, but it's really critical for these two populations of students. And so some of the things that you might is definitely differentiation. And again, that's great for everybody, but really for our kids, their development, technology integration, so they're still able to live in the competitive world that we are. Resources, so those hands-on things to really get experience in their learning. Again, inclusive spaces. So if you walk into any classroom in New Haven, this our hope is that they're within all of our classrooms, which is why we want to provide all of our students. This particular picture, there's a few different things to think about. Some of the inclusive classrooms, but there might also be rooms within school system or school buildings that are anyone to access. And those are the middle picture you see. Those are for those spaces or places where people can go to get their self-regulation and just take a time to get together. But even in our gen ed setting, you'd see visual schedules, any type of visual for our multilingual learners and our students with disabilities, word walls with graphics, in these displays, and the personalized work bins are really great because you can target the individual together as a team within that classroom. So it really does promote that inclusive piece where kids are more included in their classrooms.
And looking at both of our department is to make sure that we reduce the achievement and the opportunity gaps and multilingual learners and students with disabilities. So we know specifically for all our multilingual learners, we are growth target achieved this year in 2025 and of 59.8 in literacy and 58.6 in sure that all our students show growth in those areas, more opportunities for them to actually exit our program, right? And opportunities for students to be that they are academically ready in literacy and math. Looking at reducing the gap in significantly, and so we will be looking at a smarter balance for that. Monitoring progress, looking at what resources we have in the classroom for our students in the opportunity not only to learn the language, but also to have access in all content areas.
Use all of those gaps. We know that we have to provide some supports and interventions we want to share. We do some walkthroughs with the teams. We know that ensuring we also review students and monitor their progress as well. Professional development is essential so that teachers are aware and understand what's needed. With the administrators as well. It's something that we want to ensure, something that we know that small group instruction, and research shows that small group is something that it's needed in the classroom. We also ensure, I do want to highlight strategies and also providing guidance to teachers, specifically Dr. Robles mentioned by literacy classroom students actually learning 2 languages. Sure that all the academic supports and collaboration exists. Departments, and also we continue to meet with our literacy and math coaches are receiving the supports and interventions.
Oh God, you broke my thing.
Just go here, Brittany, to this one.
Put it together. Don't worry.
I did it. Go to the next one.
You're fine.
The laptop is muted.
Dr. Joyner, teaching and learning report.
Okay, I was just able to hear everybody. I think I missed quite a bit. We actually, you got the gist of the teaching and learning meeting in the excellent presentation by Dr. Robles and Ms. Jackson. Beautiful. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Can everybody?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
The beauty of the presentation is that it captures the complexity and diversity of the students whose needs that we have to meet. And I commend them for that. More importantly, I commend them for the work they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and in some cases nightly, because you can't take any time off. You work in New Haven because there are too many issues that we're facing. So again, thank you for that great report. I want to bring to the board's attention and to the city's attention an issue that we will begin to address in teaching and learning. And if you indulge me for a minute while I just go over some of these factors. There's an island paradise in the Caribbean where the Atlantic Ocean lies to the north.
Dr. Joyner.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Dr. Joyner.
Yes.
Okay. The teaching and learning report.
Yes. You couldn't hear what I was just saying?
No, unfortunately, we weren't. We can hear you now, though.
All right. Well, do me a favor. Somebody just raise when you can't hear me, just put your hand up so I'll know, because I don't know what you didn't hear. Were you able to hear what I had to say about the previous report?
No, unfortunately, no.
Oh my God. Okay, well, the teaching and learning report is going to consist of two important matters. One, the report that you just saw and experienced was the major focus of our last meeting. And I think that it captures the complexity of the challenges that we face in our city teaching children that come from multiple cultures, multiple languages, and in many cases impoverished. And I can't say enough for the work of Dr. Robles and Ms. Jackson for the day-to-day work they do along with their colleagues to ensure that these kids get off to a good start and get the kind of education that would change their lives. So kudos to them. The other issue in some ways is taken directly from the recent headlines, and it has implications for how we teach and what we teach, and whether or not we're preparing our students to be critical thinkers and to discern truth from falsehoods. And just please indulge me for a couple of minutes while I go over this particular point that I'm trying to make regarding that we have to have an emphasis on teaching immigrant education and migrant education. And just please listen for a minute. There's an island paradise in the Caribbean where the Atlantic Ocean lies to the north and the Caribbean Sea is located in the south. This paradise features a mix of topography, including mountains and coastal plains. As of 2023, there were approximately 3.1 million people in this island, and they all were American citizens. In World War II, the island sent 65,000 soldiers to defend America. They fought in some of the bloodiest battles in the war, including the Battle of the Bulge, the campaign in Italy, the liberation of Campo Leon, and the Battle of Okinawa. The soldiers from the Barranquinas won the nation's highest medal of valor, including the Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and many, many Purple Hearts. There's an exhibit at the Peabody Museum that helps us understand the indigenous population on that island in the 16th century, in the 15th century. And it's an exhibit about the Taínos, who were the indigenous population of Puerto Rico and neighboring islands when Columbus arrived in 1492. when he arrived in 1492, there were approximately 85, there were millions of Tainos in the area. And within a few decades, 85% of them were lost. And they died because of diseases as well as homicide and conquest. But fortunately, in 2003 and 2006, they did a DNA analysis on the island, and they found that 61% of all the Puerto Ricans have Amerindian mitochondrial DNA. And we could ask Dr. Orlando at another time to explain what that means to us. That 27% have African and 12% have Caucasian. The reason that's important is because when people make comments about garbage in the ocean, our children should be educated well enough to know that, to quote Shakespeare, it is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. And so what I've talked to many of my friends about, New Haven is an immigrant city, and that we need to step up our game in terms of designing curriculum, activities, testing, and whatever we can to try to help kids understand about the notion of e pluribus unum, what it means in this country to be an American, and the fact that we all come from the same place. Hopefully we go to different places at some point. And that's I shouldn't have said that because that's a religious comment. But I think this is a great time for us to start that process and for us to help people understand that there's no such thing as garbage people. There's a beautiful little cartoon you could probably look up on the internet, and it's a little black boy saying, I know I'm somebody because God don't make no junk. So what I like to do going forward through teaching and learning and through working with people in the community, develop and or refine our curriculum so that this beautiful city that we live in, that is comprised of people from Europe, Africa, Asia, Caribbean, indigenous populations, that we can teach our children to go after that information, to understand it, to articulate it, so that when they see or hear misinformation, disinformation, outright lies, that they'll be able to counter that and keep moving in the right direction. So I'll have conversation with Dr. Negron about it, with our curriculum and instruction folk, and with our director of social studies, as well as my many friends throughout the state who have the same concern about teaching the truth of this country, how it was founded, who contributed, and so on and so forth. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Questions or comments for Dr. Joyner? Dr. Benitez?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Joyner, for the last conversation. I wanted to comment on what I was able to see in the presentation of the previous group, and how I want to congratulate Dr. Joyner to have these two departments present on what they do for our students. And I have to say that the way it was presented, with all the possibilities for students in the New Haven Public Schools, it warmed my heart, because for a long time, these two departments were in separate corners. Some people knew about them, some people didn't. But the great thing I saw today is a real understanding of instruction, a real understanding of what is an MTSS approach to education. It is about the whole child, but it is also about providing students what they need in the mainstream and in the support programs. So thank you very much. I am truly impressed with the work that teaching and learning are doing, and with our staff who are really building a bridge among all different programming on behalf of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Facilities Naming Committee report, Dr. Joyner?
It hasn't changed since my last report. We do have some names in the docket, and we have to just get them online so that people can make some choices.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Joyner. We'll move on to Citywide School Building Committee report, Mr. Wilcox.
This will be brief because we have not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting is on November 18th.
Okay. And Finance and Operations?
So Finance and Operations Committee met last Monday on October 21st. We heard a transportation update from our transportation director. We had a financial report on spending through September. There's no projections on our deficit yet, but that will be coming in November. That's due to they have to get them set up in the fiscal year and get the encumbrances in there so they can start modeling out where we are with the deficit situations. We also had our annual change order report, which is posted with the meeting materials from that meeting, which lists all the change orders that happened last year. And it also has retrospective data over, I want to say 3 or 4 years now. That's there. And then also we had updates on plans for snow removal contracts and also facilities management contracts. The committee shared some concerns about the snow removal contracts because this is getting late in the year. So this will also be on our agenda for our next meeting to get updates related to that. Also, as related to the facilities management contract, did make the point that regardless of where the recommendations are going to come from the administration, various members of the board and the committee have also said we're going to want to see detailed analysis, including some cost analysis on what these things are. So, and what the options are so that we can see what the costs of things are as well as any benefits and what's sitting behind the rationale for any recommendations to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Questions or comments from Mr. Wilcox? Okay, we'll move. Oh, Ms. Downer?
So for the snow removal, will we be including a cost comparison with local 287? Or do we need an MOU to make that cost comparison?
So I think the plan is that this goes out to bid. So I have to review my notes from that meeting. We did have some testimony related to local 287. We can bring up the question again and to see if that's going to be part of when it goes out to bid and how that would work.
Right, because there was some testimony that there was a discussion with the department, New Haven Department of Public Works.
Okay.
And I wanted to know who was the conversation between.
Conversation between the district and the New Haven Department of Public Works.
Yeah, and who was the person on the New Haven Public Works side? Because what I heard was that they could not do it. And I needed a person who that individual has spoke to.
Okay.
And that's it.
Representative, who was the representative of the Department of Public Works that the district spoke to? Okay.
Right, because our ABM representative had actually reached out. That he said that he had reached out to the New Haven Public Works. And I honestly think that that type of communication should not come from our vendor. It needs to come from New Haven Public Service or the superintendent, whoever is in charge of the operation side, directly to the city. I think it was a conflict of interest. And I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay, I can ask the question as to who it was and when the conversation happened, since it could have happened very recently or several months ago and things could have changed on the ground. So it's information I can seek through the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Downer. Mr. Wilcox, governance report, Dr. Benitez.
Madam Chair, I had my hand up.
Dr. Joyner is raising his hand.
Dr. Joyner,
Uh-huh.
did you
Yes.
have a question or comment?
Yeah, it's a question. And I think it'll probably be better answered outside of the meeting, even though we're not trying to hide anything. In view of some of the challenges we've had with operations, I'd like to know who is designated on the district side to address all the issues that Ms. Donald just raised regarding how we're going to move forward with things like the snow contract, as well as who will do the work in our facilities for next year. I agree with her that we cannot have, if this is true, we cannot have a vendor or even a consultant managing that part of our business. And I would ask Dr. Negron if and when we can have a conversation about designating a specific person that's employed by the school district to work out these issues. And I'm not looking for an answer now unless she has one.
She does. Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Dr. Negron?
So what I do have is that our designee in this case has been Mr. Michael Carter. I did post a question around the reference to the Department of Public Works. So he has been the one that has been conducting the analysis to determine exactly what would be the cost. So I know that he's been working different scenarios, doing the research. So I know that he promised to have us more information, like Mr. Wilcox mentioned, at our next FNO meeting. But for now, we have been calling Mr. Porter as the witness representing us in the Office of Operations.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. Okay, food service task group report, Dr. Yarborough.
Good evening,
It's not on.
members of the board.
Oh, Dr.
Who left
Yarborough.
him?
He's not on, but the committee has not met since our last meeting. The next meeting will be the second Wednesday of November.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Wilcox. And
Just
with that,
wanted
I'll-
to give my governance report.
Statutes 12006B and 12110B 4 and 10 concerning strategy and negotiations with respect to
Goodness, this
pending
is
litigation in the
incredible.
matter of CHRO number 2430030 and discussion which would result in the disclosure of attorney-client privilege communications. And I'll ask into executive session, Dr. Negron, Attorney Alexiades, Ms. Tiffany Jackson, and Attorney Rebecca Goldberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Eliger. Ms. Downer. Any discussions? Dr. Benitez?
Just wanted to let you all know that we have secured a Yale intern for the governance committee. And to remind you all to follow the calendar because we will be expecting you at a governance meeting according to the calendar we submitted the last meeting. That's all for now, waiting to vote.
She said waiting to vote, so you could have. Dr. Joyner.
Let's say yes.
Yes, whatever, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Downer? Yes.
Yeah. Did we adjourn?
Looks like it. They had a quorum, then
Everyone's coming over here so they could just do it in here. Let me switch cameras.
Okay. Got it.
Dr. Dr. Benitez, can you hear us? Okay. Okay.
We need you. Where's my He's left. We have a quorum, whatever.
everybody's back.
Am I on or am I muted? He said it was a yes, but we have a quorum. So oh, okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Technical difficulties. We're all gathered around the laptop. So we are out of executive session, back in regular session. There were no votes in executive session. However, we do have, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the proposed settlement discussed in executive session. Thank you. Ms. Downer, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
See,
Dr. Joyner?
yes,
I see his lips moving, but I can't hear him.
yes.
He's saying yes.
Yes, it looks like he's saying yes. He said yes. Okay.
Thumbs up. He said yes. I think we can record that, right?
Yep.
Dr. Yarbrough's gone. Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
We can't hear them.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
hear her.
Okay. For the
Abby and I
record,
can hear each other.
thumbs up and head nodding yes. Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so that motion passes. That was our last item, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox, Mayor Elicker. Yes, Mr. Wilcox. Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
And Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and I'm a yes as well. Good night, everyone, and
Good night.
apologies for the difficulties.
Hey, it's not your fault.
Town engineer.
Oh my gosh, yeah.